Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I will be talking about the new gearing system coming out in 10.1. So they are kind of revamping the gearing system in a lot of ways. There's some gear that's not affected by this, and that would be like PvP gear is still PvP gear, crafted gear is still crafted gear, and then high-end mythic gear you can't, like the end boss of a mythic raid, you can't upgrade that anymore. So like the very highest item level gear, you can't upgrade. So I assume there's probably going to be more vendors than maybe just this one in the PvP area. But this is just an item upgrade vendor. They put these in Shadowlands, I believe, with the Valor. And this will be where you'll be upgrading your any piece of gear that you get in Season 2 in 10.1. So I was actually on the PTR to maybe try to test it out a little bit, but there weren't a lot of the stuff's not implemented yet. Like the system's implemented, but it's not like implemented in like some of the world quests, for example, didn't give any rewards. So I couldn't get like the new currencies very easily. And so I'm just here on retail to kind of show that way. So the idea behind this is that currently there's just a lot of different pathways to get gear. So obviously you have raiding to get raid gear with no upgrade at all. You can't upgrade your raid gear currently. You have Valor for Mythic Plus. You know, PvP is PvP, and that's going to stay the same. You then have Storm Sigils for primal like invasion gear, elemental overflow for that gear, and for the other gear, which is the storms. Let me see if I can find these in my bag real quick. Right here, these Essence of the Storm for that gear with the Primalist Future event. So you have Primalist Future currency, you have Primalist Invasion currency, you have the Elemental Overflow that's for both of those. And really, there's just a bunch of different type of currencies and a bunch of different types of way to get gear. Then you have like World Quest gear that's not actually upgradable. You just have to, like, if you are a full World Quest, like you can be decently strong with full World Quest armor on. You can get up to like right now on retail, you can get up to like, I think it's like 395 or maybe 385, maybe it is, just in World Quest gear, which is strong enough to do it casual content by any means. But there's no way to like upgrade that gear. So if you get like 375, then you do the next world quest, you get 378. And it's like there's no way to like upgrade your gear if you have a piece that you want with the proper stats on it, whatever. So there's no way to upgrade that gear, and so this is a way to also upgrade that gear. Basically, anything in Season 2 is upgradable in some way. So every piece of gear that I mentioned, plus obviously crafting gear through crafting and PvP gear through PvP. Those are the two main systems that aren't truly affected by this. So to do this, they've developed the currency. Now this may sound convoluted because I've seen a lot of people say that it sounds convoluted. I think really the disconnect is just it's a new term, and I think a lot of World of Warcraft people don't like new terms. So people kind of liked Valor because we know Valor. Valor, if you played the game for a long time, you know what Valor is. People don't know, a lot of people probably still don't understand what elemental overflow and storm sigils are and stuff. And I think that's just because it's very specific. You can only upgrade very specific gear through this system, and you kind of have to seek it out if you really want it. But so basically, Valor is going to be gone because it's now just a PvE upgrade currency. Instead, and it's not going to be like in your currency tab. It will be in your bags, similar to these Essence of the Storm over here that you get from the Primalist Future. Now these stack extremely high in your bags, so you shouldn't have to use multiple bag slots for these. And the number one currency is going to be Flight Stones. Okay, so Flight Stones, and these are the things that I couldn't get enough of on the PTR to really go over it, like, and actually like try to do it. At least not easily. Like I guess I could have just like tried to find Mythic Plus groups and do them over and over. But like, so if you have a world quest, so instead of this giving me gold as a reward, it might give me flight stones, and or even the crests as well, or fragments of the quests, crests, not quests, crests. So you get these flight stones from pretty much anything. You can get the flight stones from doing world quests. You get the flight stones from doing a battleground. Probably, I don't know that for sure actually, because PvP is separate. But you get the flight stones from doing anything, just killing mobs in the wild, right? So think of like artifact power, and that you could just, most things in the game gave you artifact power back in like BFA and stuff. Most things will give you these flight stones, and these are just like the base currency you need. Basically, you play the game, you will have flight stones. the more you play the game, the more flight stones you'll have. If you play the game a lot, you'll have more flight stones than you could ever use, essentially. So basically just play the game and you will have flight stones. The crests are a little bit different. So with the crests, these operate more closely to like the, if you know crafting at all, like the upgrade things for crafting. So the primal focuses that can turn into the concentrated primal focuses. So like these things right here, right? And then you can turn them into the things that you use for crafting, right? The crests operate more like these, except for there's more levels of them now. And these actually replace these infusions, right? So there's the primal infusion, the concentrated primal infusion, and then there's these focuses that turned into them. But instead of having it turn into it, there's just 4 types of crests. There's the very low level crest, and it's like whelpling, and then the top one's aspect. It's basically like stages of a dragon. And you obtain these crests from doing content that is fitting for that item level, right? So you do a world quest, you'll get like a whelpling crest, right? That's very low level stuff, but you can upgrade that low level gear up to a max amount for that. So like in this patch, for example, it would probably be like 385 or something like that, is what you could upgrade with your whelpling crest. After that, you have another crest, and that upgrades, and they did it in like raid level. So like they said whelpling crest, the way they described it, Blizzard, whelpling crest will upgrade you to LFR raid level. So let's just go ahead and pull that up. Raids, again, this is not in the next thing. This is something I could have done on the PTR. So let's go to LFR, and Earnog drops 370, so it would be like 375-ish, right? So in this case, I guess it would be 376, but you would be able to upgrade with whelpling crest up to 376 gear. So just doing outdoor content, you could upgrade every item you're wearing to 376 and be full 376. Doing normal, so this could be this includes outdoor raid content as well. So I assume that means like elite world quests, maybe world bosses. World bosses maybe even drop the next crest up or whatever. But doing like harder world quests and doing other outdoor content, probably killing rare spawns, right? Some of the harder rare spawns can allot you these next level of crest. And these will upgrade in patch 10.0. It would upgrade you to about 389, it appears, based on what they're saying. So, like 13 item levels higher or so with these level crests. So as long as you are doing elite world quests, you're participating in open world content that's, not just the absolute easiest content. You are, killing some rare spawns, whatever. Or you go into the normal raid, right? You can get these crests, and then you would have full 389 gear for everything. Now where it gets a little bit harder, of course, is when you start getting to Heroic and Mythic, because now the content you complete has to be more apropos of that. So to get the Heroic gear, so in this patch, if you wanted to have full 402, maybe it's 405, right? Maybe it's like the next, like a different boss, right? Eventually it goes up to higher item level 408. So maybe it's 405, maybe it's 402, whatever it is. To get that gear, you would need to do the Heroic Raid or Mythic Plus. Probably World Boss would probably be fit into this as well. Maybe some other weekly events or something like that might offer these types of crests. And this would allow you to basically have full Heroic item level gear. So full 402 gear from doing that. Basically, it's something that a very casual player could step into, but maybe not complete. Maybe they wouldn't get a full set of 402 gear if they didn't want to play the game at a more end-gamey level. But essentially, doing that kind of content will get you 402 item level for patch 10.0. That'll obviously be higher in 10.1. And then finally, for Mythic, you can upgrade one last crest up to Mythic, the base item level of Mythic. So in this, it would be like 415. And you cannot go past that. So like you can't upgrade to 424, right? Razagath level. But you can upgrade to 415, the base item level of Mythic. And to do this, you need to do the Mythic Raid, extremely high keystones. You no longer can get it from like world bosses, probably. Maybe there's a slight chance or something like that. But now it becomes, if you want to have the 415 gear, you actually need to do some really challenging endgame content to do so. But if you do, you will get this crest. Now, again, this might sound convoluted. it's really not that bad. It's mostly just play the game and doing the content that you do. You should have full gear of what your thing is, right? So I'm 416 item level with my current gear. I think I'm like 417 in my best gear or whatever. And, you know, that's because I did, you know, I'm a Mythic Raider essentially, right? I have a couple of Mythic Plus box stuff on, but mostly it's from Mythic Rating. My bracers, however, oh, well, I have the protection bracers on now. I had the Broodmother bracers on. I'll just use that as an example anyways. Or, that's not a good example either. I might not have a piece of gear that actually is a good example for this, in all honesty. But the Broodmother bracers were a case before I crafted some, just so I could have higher item level. But I had the Broodmother bracers on, and there was no way for me to upgrade those, essentially, unless we killed Mythic Broodmother, which we have, but we're now on Razagath. And it's very likely that I never get those Mythic bracers from Broodmother. So in this case, I was able to craft some. But let's say I couldn't craft something for my bracers. I would have been able to upgrade with those Mythic Crests. Well, I would have been able to upgrade it from, you know, almost Mythic level from the Heroic Broodmother up to the 415. So I think it'd be like 408 to 415 or so. So I'd be able to upgrade it a couple times and get a little bit higher item level that way. So that's like the benefit for like a high-end player. If you have a piece from Heroic that's just a good piece, it's like the best in slot item, but it's not the right item level, you can upgrade it. That's the same thing for Valor, right? We'll take a look. I think I don't have my Blazebinder trinket done, Blazebinder hoof. So it's only at 12 or 13. But when I first got this, it was from like a +2. I was just farming the trinket. So it was like a 2 out of 13. And so I already had the trinket. So yes, if I would have run a Ruby Life Pools and got a higher one, I would have continued with that one. However, I didn't. So I just continued leveling this one up, and up, or whatever. And that's kind of the same thing. So you get your best item. Maybe you get a Diorna's Chosen ring from Heroic or Normal or LFR. You can then upgrade that ring up to the content that you do, right? The content that you normally do. So it's a good way to have your best in slot for like a high-end player. And for a casual player, it's just a good way to have your full gear set up to the content that you do. And if you want to then jump into other content and try to get some crest upgrade stuff, you can do that. Like if you're lucky enough to get you know, a ring or something from, or let's say you step into, let's say you're so casual you don't even do LFR normally, but you do it and you get that ring, and with the outdoor content you can actually upgrade that ring from LFR to normal. And so that could be like a nice little bonus for a casual player as well. It sounds more complicated than it is. The crests are also vendorable or whatever. The crest with the 4 levels. So if you are someone who's like way above, you know, the well playing crest level, as these accumulate in your bags, you can just vendor them for gold or whatever. You don't have to worry about those. Once your item level is surpassed that of a crest, you can just get rid of them or whatever. So there's also it's worth noting as well. There's a couple more important things for this system. So there's basically no cap on it. I think there's enough that you can do 10 upgrades per week, but you won't ever really play the game enough to get more than that the crests needed to upgrade those. So you'd get enough of the flight stones to upgrade your gear that much, probably, if you played a lot, but you probably wouldn't get enough crests to do that anyways. But you can do 10 upgrades essentially per week. That's what the cap's at, and I believe that cap goes up over time. So if you were, especially because of alts, it's actually easier to do this system with. So it's actually very alt friendly as well. So as time goes on, it would be easier to gear up your alts too with the system. So that's the way that works. So there's basically no cap. There is a soft cap, but it's essentially not a very huge cap. The other thing is that there's a redundancy thing, right? So if I have a you know, I already have a trinket, a high item level trinket or something like that. You know, 415. I have a 415 trinket. So all of these trinkets that are lower than 415 cost lower. Like, I don't know if you can actually upgrade trinkets. I don't know if it's just armor or trinkets or everything. But let's just say you can for this example, right? It's actually cheaper for me to upgrade them because I already have something higher item level. Same thing with a weapon. I have a 418 weapon. If I get a 400 weapon with better stats on it or a cool effect on it, it's now cheaper for me to upgrade that because I have a higher item level thing. This is account wide. So if your main character is, you know, 420 or something like that item level, on your alts, pretty much everything you do costs less resources to upgrade. So it still costs something, but it's just much less. They pointed out that there's a benefit for Fury Warriors who do wield two-handed weapons. Once you have one two-handed weapon that's high item level, you can actually upgrade your second two-handed weapon for extremely cheap cost because you already have one two-handed weapon that is at a higher item level. So it's extremely advantageous as well. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good system overall because it should allow people. I wish that there was a better way to bridge the gap, right? I wish there was a way we could get that normal item level player, outdoor content player, not into the heroic raid because they might not want to do the raid, not into the Mythic Plus because they might not want to do the Mythic Plus. But I wish there was a way we could bridge that with outdoor content, with solo content, maybe devising something. I don't want to say this in terms of bring it back because people obviously get mad at that, but like a Torghast style thing where it's a solo thing you can go in and do by yourself, and maybe you could earn at a certain level, you could earn like heroic level crests or whatever, and those could be used to then upgrade your gear more for like a casual player. So I think there's tons of room for improvement on this, but essentially it's just the Valor system spread out over everything else. If you're wondering how the Valor stuff works for Mythic Plus or whatever, like, because it's gone, right? So maybe you're wondering that. What about my Valor? What about my Mythic Plus score? So it does not depend on your score anymore. You no longer need a score to upgrade your gear. You will need to have completed, if you're a Mythic Plus player, you're going to need to complete hard content. Like, you might have to do plus 20s to get the same item level you are now, or plus 16s or whatever. You might still have to complete those to get those crests to drop, right? So, but essentially you could just farm Shadow Moon in this patch, okay? In Season 2, Shadow Moon Burial Grounds is gone. But in this patch, you could just farm Shadow Moon Burial Grounds on 16s for crests. Like, that is something you could do, is just farm those for crests. The score no longer matters for that. The score still matters for achievement. The score still matters for, like the title for like the top 1% or whatever, Mythic Plus players. So it's still used as a barometer, but it no longer matters for actually upgrading your gear. You just need to have the proper currencies, which just means you just need to be doing the proper content. Like I said, I think there's ways to improve that for solo players. I always advocate for that. I was advocating for that for like the Primalist gear as well, for more upgrades for it, to help people out even more. But I think that almost has to be solved with like a feature, right? It's like a solo content as like a feature equal to heroic rating, right? I think that would be a really cool thing. A solo content feature equal to heroic rating, and that way any player who played World of Warcraft could at least have heroic level gear as long as they could complete that solo content and to achieve it. So I think that would be pretty cool, but that's not the case for this. So just a quick recap. Flight stones everywhere. Play the game, you'll get flight stones. Kill a random mob, you might get a flight stone. Flight stones are everywhere. Crests come from different types of content. There's 4 types of crests. Easy content, like a world quest, like a normal world quest, can drop the lowest crest. A harder world quest might drop a normal quest, just like a normal raid boss will, or a Mythic plus 5 or a plus whatever might drop a normal, crest. Heroic rating, higher Mythic plus will drop like heroic crests, and then Mythic rating and very high Mythic plus will drop like Mythic crests, right? So that's kind of how the crest system works, and the flight stones work. These pile up in your bags, but the stack is very high. They didn't say what it is, but I assume it's probably like, there's other things in the game that stack like to like 2,000, so I assume it's something really high like that, maybe even higher. So you can have gigantic stacks of these things in your bags. You can sell the crests that are not viable for you, and then you can just keep like me as a high-end player, I'm going to keep around the heroic crests for a while until I have surpassed that item level, and then I'll keep around Mythic crests for a while until I'm only needing gear from like end bosses in the Mythic, right? In which case, every time I get a crest, it's just gold, I just vendor it. So that's kind of how the system works. I know I did see some complaints about it. There's some people who were like super hyped about it, and some people were complaining about it, but I did see that most of the complaints were really just the name of it. If you just think of it as like Valor for everyone, Flight Stones are for everything, right? So imagine the Flight Stones are the Valor, and then in this case, you need to have like a crest to like infuse it, right? So the crests are like the infusions from this first patch from 10.0. So everybody gets the Valor currency, the Flight Stones, and then you infuse it with a crest, and that upgrades your gear. Maybe that's what would help people look at it different, but it was mostly just the name. I saw people saying, well, just bring back badges of justice and badges of, I can't remember what the other ones are called, but they just wanted names that they knew, right? But essentially it's kind of the same thing. It really is. So good luck to everybody with this new system. Hopefully this is good for casual players. Like I said, I wish we could do more for them. Like if I was a voice in the room, I would say we need to do some sort of a solo content for casual players to get even better gear so they can feel like they're progressing, because it's even for a casual player, I think it's too easy to get like the normal item level gear. So I would love to see a form of solo content that's challenging, that can be kind of considered equivalent to heroic gear, even if that solo content doesn't come out until like a month after the patch, or it comes out like with the first mini patch of a big patch, right? So instead of 10.1, it would come out with like 10.1.05 or whatever. And then this heroic solo content comes out, and then like everyone could get up to that level of gear. I think that'd be really cool and really healthy for the game personally. But that's pretty much my only complaint, is just that there's not more tracks for solo players. Crafting basically the same. Obviously the item level is going to go up, and then PvP is basically the same as well. No, if you're a PvP player, this basically doesn't affect you, so you don't have to worry about it at all. So that's it though, guys. Hopefully if you have any more questions, I think I covered everything pretty well, but if you do have any more questions about it, ask below and I'll try to get back to you if I can, or if it's a question that I didn't cover in here. If it's about just why is it not named Valor, I probably won't answer that question. That's just, I don't know why they could have named it something else, Badge of Justice or something. They could have done that, but you know, they named it things for Dragonflight. It's Flight Stones because of flying dragons, and the crests are all named after dragons. They're like Whelpling. I can't remember the two middle names, but it's Whelpling and the top one's Aspect. And so that's just kind of how it works. So that's it for this one, guys. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot. Other than that, everybody, have a good one.